Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Tuscan-Style flank steak. That's right, Father's Day is coming up, and I wanted to do an extra special steak for all the dads out there. And I really love flank steak as a cut for the grill. And here we're going to marinate it in lemon, black pepper, garlic, and rosemary. And we're also going to do a very simple lemon dressing to serve it with. That's right, 2 recipes for the same low price as one. All right, first step here. Anytime you're using zest and lemon juice in a recipe, always zest first because it's too hard to zest something after you squeeze it. So I'm going to zest a couple lemons, and then in a blender, we're going to start our marinade, which is fresh rosemary leaves, lots of garlic, some freshly ground black pepper, some red pepper flakes, some of that freshly squeezed lemon juice. We're going to pour in some olive oil and a big pinch of salt, and that's it. Very simple yet extremely powerful marinade. All right, the magic is strong in this one. So we're going to take that over to the blender, and we're going to process that until completely smooth. And once that's processed, just set it aside until our steak is prepped. Speaking of which, there is our gorgeous flank steak. Now that is worthy of a Father's Day celebration. A giant hunk of meat, pretty much 100% edible. You get these from the butcher fully trimmed. And before we marinate it, we're going to get a little bit stabby with it. So I want you to take a fork, and I want you to give it between, like 28 and 32 stabs. And that's going to help the marinade absorb into the meat. So after you've given it the prescribed number of punctures, I want you to pour over the marinade, spread it over with a fork. You want to flip that over several times so both sides are coated equally. And then we're going to wrap that with plastic and refrigerate that for between 4 and 8 hours. All right, as I say with all these marinade recipes, longer or shorter marinating times at your own risk. Okay, so while that's in the fridge, we're going to make a very simple lemon dressing. So for this, I'm going to use a mason jar. You can use a whisk in a bowl if you want it to be harder and messier, but this is the easiest way for me. We're going to throw in the lemon zest we did earlier, along with some finely minced rosemary. Be careful. Rosemary is one of those herbs you can definitely add too much of. I'm going to throw in some pepper flakes, some more of that freshly squeezed lemon juice, and of course some olive oil, another pinch of salt, screw the top on, and give it a vigorous and proper shaking. I'm talking 1 minute, no stopping. And that will emulsify it. And you want to shake it again for a minute before you serve it. And that's done. All right, so fast forward about 5 or 6 hours later for me, and my marination duration was done, and I was ready to grill. I like to kind of scrape off any of the obvious excess marinade. A little bit on there is great, but if you have big, thick globs, kind of scrape it off with the tongs. I'm going to reseason mine with some salt and pepper. We're going to head outside, and we're going to place that on our very well preheated charcoal grill. All right, don't even think of calling this Tuscan unless you cook it over some coals. This really should be over a smoky charcoal fire. And I'm going to grill it about 6 minutes per side. That seems to work for me. And of course, if you want to give it those grill marks by giving it a half turn, make sure you wait at least 3 or 4 minutes. Otherwise, the meat is not going to be released from those grates yet. So right there, mine was okay. I gave it a turn. So after about 6 minutes, I flipped mine. And 6 minutes is a long time to wait for a steak to finish cooking. So while you're waiting, here's a project. Take a little bit of that dressing we made, a couple tablespoons, put it in a ramekin, and then grab some rosemary sprigs, and then just go ahead and brush that over the top. It will make it all shiny and luscious looking. It will keep it moist and flavorful. So like I say, you got 6 minutes. Why wouldn't you do that? Come on. All right, so right there, mine was done. I go for about 120 inside of the thickest part, which is a little rare, but I'll show you why I do that in a minute. And of course, please, for the love of Dad, let this rest at least 6-7 minutes. Because if you cut this open hot, it's just going to pour out on the cutting board, and it won't be as awesome. So at this point, mine is rested. I'm going to make sure I find the grain, which runs lengthwise, and I'm going to cut it down the middle just like that, because these are much easier to slice if you cut it in half first. Then we're going to cut across against the grain. Now you can see here why I take mine off at 120 in the thickest part, because that's going to be rare, but you see how that tapers down? Flank steak is great for a party, because there's going to be everything from medium well all the way up to rare on the same piece of meat. And then we're simply going to slice each of those long rectangles crossways against the grain, just like that. We're going to put it on a plate. We're going to drizzle on some of that super awesome dressing, maybe some more freshly cracked black pepper, and that was a thing of beauty. I served it with some roasted red pepper and potatoes, and it really is as juicy and tender as it looks. In fact, Dad will like this so much, he'll be thinking as he's eating, maybe they do love me and don't just use me for, money and shelter. That's how good it is. So I hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info, as usual. And as always, enjoy.